Welcome, everybody, to the Building Bellingham Pivot Series. I'm your host, Leo Cohen, and I have some awesome guests here. So I've driven by your establishments, and I've seen your fine work around the community, but now we get a chance to meet you all here, well, in e-person, right? Not necessarily in person, but e-person. So I'm just going to go ahead and start by letting you guys introduce who you are. Jenny Ray, you're in the upper left corner, and
yep.
I'm going to go counterclockwise because we're going to go against the grain of, society here. Jenny, tell us a little bit more about you and who you are and Chuckanut Builders.
Yeah, so I'm Jenny Ray. I'm one of the owners at Chuckanut Builders, and I'm the communications director for our company. We are starting our 10th year as a business in Bellingham. We're a residential contractor. We also do some tenant improvement projects downtown. We recently built out Camber and Pure Bliss, and just finished a really cool project for the Natural Systems Design, the old furniture store downtown, which is really awesome. And we do a lot of smaller residential remodels, like kitchen remodels. We do full home remodels. And we're really excited to be working on projects through COVID. We were considered an essential business, and so we got to keep some of our projects running, which was great.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I can't tell if you guys are on the floor. I know I just said this, but if you're laying down or if it's the wall behind you, but we've got our friends over at the Bellingham Bay Builders, got Dave Brogan and Jeff Mack. Thank you for joining us today. Who are you? And well, I think we know what you do, but tell us a little bit more about your business.
Yeah, so I'm Dave Brogan. I'm one of the founder owners of Bellingham Bay Builders. We're a workers cooperative, residential general contractor, and also do light commercial as well. We started our business in 2004 as a workers cooperative, and have had a lot of great owners come through. And Jeff Mack is, I'll let you introduce yourself.
I'm Jeff Mack.
Period. Jeff Mack, period.
Also an owner.
Yeah. Love it. Well, thanks for joining us today. Maggie Bates with A-1 Builders. Tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Maggie, and I'm with A-1, and I'm the design manager in A-1 Design. And we're A-1 Builders, and we're also Adaptations Design Studio, but we're just about to rebrand.
Awesome.
So we're going to consolidate that because that's quite a mouthful. We're also a worker cooperative, and we took a little bit of a break during COVID, but not much. The designers kept working, and we're back pretty well full steam ahead with some modifications to our process. We're focusing mainly on residential remodels, additions, and new homes right now.
Awesome. And you all know each other outside of just this. I mean, obviously, I don't know if you guys have worked together on specific projects or just know each other because you're somewhat neighbors. I know you guys are with Chuckanut and Bellingham Bay are neighbors down the street with a lot going on over. Is that State Street?
At North State, yeah.
North State. There's a lot going on over there right now. It's wild. But
we're minded, friendly competitors.
I love it.
Yeah, I think Sean's not here, but Sean likes to call it co-opetition.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, it's collaboration. We can all coexist. What does that mean for businesses to be at the top of their top quality, performing at a very high level, doing a lot of similar but very different things, like similar but different. I know that sounds frustrating to hear that, but the truth is you guys have your own touch on what you do, and that's why you're unique. But you know that you can coexist with each other and all thrive together. What does that mean to collaborate in your industry, and especially in an industry that's been historically very cutthroat and competitive, just like real estate,
I think one example is when we first learned about COVID and realized that we were going to have to make some adaptations to processes and all the regulations came out, we collaborated and we had a series of emails about what folks were doing and how they were meeting the requirements and where people were getting supplies and how we were dealing with paying folks, and were folks using like what kind of funds people were using. And so it was really collaborative in that nature of like, what are you doing and what could we be doing and what are the regulations and what does it look like in the field? And so I think that's one really good example of like how we can work together as green builders and how we have in the, you know, not very distant past.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you build that trust? How do you, you have to compete in order to survive. So how do you build that trust? You know, for people that are watching, that are business owners that are saying, I've got to keep everything, all of my trade secrets here. How do you guys operate like that? You know, Bellingham Bay, A-1, do you guys want to talk a little bit more about how that works?
I sort of have a thought about that, and it's kind of, I think it has to do with having two things, sort of a bigger picture of like there's enough business to go around, and we need even more contractors who are willing to do these energy efficient, high performance kind of buildings. Like we need that. We need that in our community. We need that in our world. And so if we all are doing it, that's great. We can't do it by ourselves. And everybody else knows a little piece that maybe we don't know. And if we're all willing to share, all of our companies are going to raise up in quality of what our product is. So that's like the big picture. And then the other picture is we keep partying together.
Yeah, I love it. So having fun together.
Yeah, we have fun together.
I'll add that too. I think there's a level of respect among us too. I mean, I think we all respect each other's work, craftsmanship, business models, and relationships that we share in the industry. And so that presents itself in the cooperation that we have with one another and teaming up on projects and things like that. So,
not to mention that there's a lot of work, great work in Bellingham right now, and as long as we're all feel pretty confident about who we are, we have similar value-driven businesses, and there's plenty of great work to go around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for those that are watching, if they don't know anything about building a home, what would be the difference between the line of work, this, you know, the niche world that you are all in, which is the custom, high-end, green, efficient, like really just core Bellingham homes, Northwest homes, and the tract homes, the spec building? What are the big differences besides the cost and the finishes? I mean, do you guys want to dive a little bit into that and like tell me more about that?
When I talk to folks about the work that we do, I really highlight durability and health of a home. And so we don't talk a lot about like energy savings specifically. I think that's something that's harder to exactly, like, I don't know, for some people feel really passionate about, but folks really want a home that's healthy. Like indoor air quality is a really big issue. And a lot of homes that are built just to code or older homes like have really poor indoor air quality. And there are so many improvements that can be made by the kind of work that we do. And I think it's just like, it's an education piece that we can share with our clients. And we also talk about durability. Nobody wants to be working on their home and maintaining their home. Like we live in Bellingham because we want to go outside. We want to mountain bike. We want to backpack. We want to be on the water. And so like home maintenance is an issue. And so by building a more durable home, folks are going to have more time to do the things that they love.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick plug. I love mountain biking too. Gravity throws me down though sometimes.
It happens.
So you're talking about the durability of the home, the air quality of the home, things that people don't think about. And
yeah.
What is, yeah, tell me more about the quality too, like about the passion and the time and energy and effort and the craftsmanship that you all put into your work. How does that differ from someone that's trying to throw a house up in 90 or 120 days?
I mean, I can probably speak a little bit to that. There's different levels that you can do on every part of the building that you can pay just a little bit more attention to, that you can bring to just a little bit higher quality, more durability, healthier, just like Jenny said. So, specifically you can get into the components of it. You can get into instead of just putting siding right up on the sheathing, you're going to add a rain barrier, and then, I'm going to add another layer of insulation, of continuous insulation on the outside. And now all of a sudden you've turned that into a high performance wall. You know, when you're planning the shape of the building, if you take into account the solar and you get that roof solar ready, now you've turned that into a high performance design because you're including solar. So it's thinking beyond code. You know, code is the worst you can do, and that's what most houses that are tract homes are. They're the worst you can do. That's the worst thing to say, but it's a reality. We try and do better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you find the balance? Because we all live here because we love the Pacific Northwest. We love the green. We love the outdoors. Clearly, mountain biking is a common theme here, and we have that. But then everybody on this call is in the business of building new homes and creating the idea of home. How do you find the balance? And maybe if the gents down here at Bellingham Bay want to dive into, like, how do you find the balance of maintaining this beautiful place that we live, but also building and keeping our business going? How do you find that perfect harmony? Is it the house that you build that fits into the environment really well, or is it just building enough homes or the right amount of homes? Like, what is that? How do you find that balance?
Yeah, good question. There's a lot of ways that we try to meet that. One, we really love taking on remodel projects.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of great remodel opportunities in that you have homes that are in established neighborhoods. It's a site that's already been impacted, and probably aspects of the building that we can reuse. That doesn't always work, and so there is new construction as well. And like A-1 and Chuckanut, we also focus on high performance homes. And while they provide a lot of benefits for the homeowners, more comfortable climate, better air quality, more durable structure, they also have a lower carbon footprint and less VOCs and better manufacturing products. So multifamily, another option. A lot of multifamily going on in Bellingham right now.
Yeah, and you know, and I think to add to that, housing is something that is needed everywhere, and it's important. And if we can continue to do our part to make sure that housing is contributing to more stable grid, and we're pushing the envelope of what is possible with having, you know, high performance homes that don't, you know, that are better for the environment in general. That's the direction our housing needs to go. You know, the majority of energy spent on a house isn't in building it, it's in maintaining it, and it's in keeping it warm. And so if you're building these high performance houses, you are helping the environment.
Yeah.
I think another component of that we really like to focus on is just smart use of space. I think a lot of folks, when they come to us for a remodel, are like, I need more space. We need an addition. It needs to be however much bigger. And by bringing in a designer that is really good at utilizing existing space and reconfiguring it, you can avoid building an addition and still meet the needs of clients. And so that down the road is like less heating costs, less cooling costs, less maintenance, less materials, like all of it. And so it's just helping clients see that like more space isn't always the answer, while also addressing their needs of like increasing the function of their existing home.
Yeah, I'm hearing a theme of efficiency. I mean, that's huge. And it sounds like you all very clearly have efficiently run businesses, and that part of your business, like you just said, Jenny, is about not necessarily like adding more and bigger and, you know, more grand. And it's like, how can we make this more efficient? Tell me a little bit more about your business structures. And I very much assume you all operate very efficiently. And I heard something about a cooperative. Tell me a little bit more about your business structures, and we can start with Jenny and kind of go around the wheel here again. And for our audience, how does your business operate? What's your role? What are the other roles? How do you keep your team small or large or whatever it is? What's important to you about that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I feel like that's something that we are continually like, we're not afraid to tinker with that model. We currently have 15 folks working. Not everybody's a full-time employee, but mainly we have folks that work 32 plus hours a week. There are 3 owners. Forrest Chiavario is one of the owners, and then Ian Wright, who's my husband, is the other owner, and I. And so I'm the communications director. I do all of our outreach work, marketing, events, a lot of client communications, some early sales. And then we have project managers that are kind of early liaison with customers, and they also kind of see a project through the end. We have site leads that work. We have one site lead for every project, and so they manage the project in the field, manage the site leads, or sorry, the subcontractors on site and schedules and material, and that's a really great aspect for clients. They like having one dedicated contact that's on their project that they know they can reach out to and ask questions. And then we have a handful of carpenters that kind of work between jobs. And so, yeah, we try to keep our crew the right size, not too big, not too small. And I think that there's always that balance there and figuring out what that is. We really, really focus on hiring. We spend a long time hiring, and feel like that's like the most important investment that we can make is finding the right folks for our crew. Community culture, just culture is really important to us, and we're willing to train the right person. If they fit the culture and they're excited about the work we do and excited about the kind of business that we run, matching our values is really important. And so we're actually hiring right now, folks. We're hiring a project manager. If you know anyone that wants to work for, we're a fun, energetic company, forward thinking, and really just like always trying to push the bar in lots of ways. And we really value a work-life balance, which I think is really important for a lot of folks.
So whoever's watching, if you know anyone that would be a fantastic project manager, you now know how to get a hold of Jenny. Yeah. What about gents over here at Bellingham Bay? Tell us a little bit. You said a cooperative. What does that mean to run a cooperative? How does that function?
Yeah, sure. So Dave, you should add into this too, because he's one of the founding members. I came in after Bellingham Bays was founded in 2009 is when I joined. And I'll add a little bit of my personal history. You know, I had worked in the building industry for quite a few years. And up until that point, I was actually looking for something else to do until I ran across Bellingham Bay Builders. And their model as a business attracted me and kept me building. The idea of a workers' cooperative was something that I hadn't had that much experience with other than shopping at food co-ops for, 15 years previously. And so, but, that's just my personal connection with how I found them. But we're a workers' cooperative, which means we have multiple owners, and all of our employees are working towards ownership of the company as well. And so right now we currently have 5 owners, and Dave is one of our founding owners. So he helped create the business model that we have, and then has helped maintain it for the last 17 years. In addition to being a workers' cooperative, we're also, we're a general contractor that has to balance that portion of our business with, the way that it's set up. And so we have project managers in the office, right? Dave and I are project managers that are mainly doing the administrative side of our company. Then we have site leads that are on every project. And one of the things that we like to talk to our clients about is the fact that we have multiple owners, and we like to have an owner associated with every project if possible. And that often will, it helps our clients know that, we're really paying attention to the quality and craftsmanship. And one other thing I wanted to add, returning to a question that you had earlier about how do you balance, being builders and the environment and the community we live in. I think, one of the ways that Bellingham Bay Builders does that as well is by being a workers cooperative and by contributing to the culture and the community around us by having a business model that's equitable and trying to make sure that we're, contributing to equitable economy.
Yeah. So we eventually hope to have everyone who works in Bellingham Bay Builders be owners of the company, and whatever is left at the end of the year gets spread amongst all the owners and gets spent in our community. It's a great system.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing it. And Maggie, what about you?
Well, there was a couple of things said by both of the other folks here that that kind of feeds really into who we are. First of all, we're a worker-owned cooperative too, and Bellingham Bay Builders was so instrumental in sharing what they had gone through, and how do you do it, and maybe who do you contact to figure out how to do that. We're forever in their debt for helping us at the beginning. Thank you. And it almost makes it worth it that Jeff Mack left our employ and went to but Jeff, you were with us back when we were still an Inc., a regular corporation with Rick. That was a long time ago. Anyway, the other thing that Jenny said that makes a lot of sense to our company too is our values, is like getting very clear about our values and aligning not only our who we hire with those values, but then making that very public in the community. And the clients, you know, they migrate to you because they align with your values. And the way that we handle that in the company, we sort of have two things going on with a worker-owned cooperative. You have the same hierarchical structure for running the business: general manager, design manager, you know, a lead carpenter, you know, versus a project manager. You still have this hierarchical system, and so everything runs based on that. But then when it comes time to make a very big decision, instead of turning to an owner, you turn to a board of owners, and the board addresses the big picture decisions. So it becomes the difference between you know, operations versus policy. And operations are handled by the hierarchical system, and policy is handled by the board. And then as far as who we are, beyond that, the worker-owned cooperative says a lot about us, but also our company is really into, we really want to make an impact on the community, in a larger sense, not just serving a client who has enough money to build a very high performance house, because we're finding that they are a little bit more expensive. But that, you know, that's part of the picture. But the other part of the picture is, you know, doing work for Habitat for Humanity, or actually addressing right now what is currently going on in the news that's affecting people so deeply. And the other thing that we like to keep at the forefront is like having a diverse team. We really embrace that, having diversity on our team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you guys all of you keep talking about reverting back to this core values, and it's like, it's an alignment of people within your company, but it's also an alignment with, you know, your clientele. People, you know, you're not working with everybody, and that's not to say that you're judging people and turning them away, but there's a certain core, like, pure quality to what you're all talking about with how you run your business. Let's take a little step back into, you know, let's say, what is it, February, March, kind of this transition into COVID, all this stuff that's happening. Business is probably booming. You guys have, you know, how many projects going at once, a number of projects going at once. 2020 is supposed to be this big year. Not that it can't still be, but it's just different, right? And this all hit, and all of a sudden you guys turn inwards to your community, to your builders community, then turn outwards also to your local community. Tell me a little bit more about how that all hit, and how important those core values that you've all just described were to really just put one foot in front of the other, and really give when you have less. Like, it's almost like everything's been pulled back, but you're still giving, you're still sticking to your core values. Tell me, Jenny, maybe I start with you, a little bit more about that process and what that was like for you guys at Chuckanut.
Well, I mean, I think that I addressed it a little bit earlier. Like, one of our core values is collaboration. Like, we as a business are just like, we focus on collaboration in lots of ways. And this building community is one of the ways. Like, we're members of like a handful of different business organizations that work together to better our business. So innovation and collaboration are like key to what we do and who we are as a business. And so I think that, like, the first thing we did we reached out to these folks, to Bellingham Bay and A1, and we were like, what are you guys doing? Like, this is what we're doing. How can we help each other? How can we get through it? What's it going to look like? And so I think that was like one of our first steps, is to like reach out to this community. And so I think that for us, that was a really big deal. And I think our priority was taking care of our crew. And for us, that's like this level of stewardship that like without our crew, we're nothing. Like we focus so heavily on like taking care of folks that work for us, because it's like, I don't know, it's like family, like it's the most important thing. And so like for us, just like, that was the biggest question. Like, how do we take care of folks? What is this going to look like? How long is this going to last? How are we going to make sure that people are going to like continue to get a paycheck? And so we used our community to figure out how to like make that happen and do it in a smart way, so that the business would still be here post COVID. You know, it's like we had to make smart decisions along the way and be creative, but we really reached out to our community to make that happen.
Yeah, what were some of those smart and creative decisions? If we can get a little bit more specific, what's an example of something where you're kind of caught with your back against the wall, looking over the edge and going, whoa, there it is. And you either can be innovative or not and go out of business, or maybe not go out of business, but have a negative impact on your business. Tell me a little bit more about a specific time that,
Well, I mean, I would say we like immediately reached out to the Small Business Development Council. We have worked closely with CJ Sykes for, I don't know, since we started the business. She's amazing. We love the SBDC. Like, I could not give them enough praise. So we reached out to them first thing, and we were like, CJ, what's our next step? Like, what do we do? This is what we're thinking. And we worked with her, and then we worked with our bank. We worked with People's Bank, which is a local bank, and we have a really great banker that we love, and like we reached out to him. So I mean, again, like what we did is we reached out to our community. We like reached out and we were like, what are the next steps? What do we need to be doing? And so I don't know that I never like felt like we were on the edge. I felt like it felt scary. We stepped back and we said, okay, there's, you know, when you panic, nothing works well. So take a deep breath.
love that.
Reach out to your community, and like it all worked, you know? And so it's just like, we're not out of the woods clearly, like we're still in phase 2, but I think that like for us, like there was no like hit the panic button, because we like stopped, took a breath, and we reached out to our people. And that has been the hard, I mean, like our tagline is committed to the community, committed to the craft. And like for us, like we're committed to the community because the community has always had our back.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, Jeff and Dave, what about you guys?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember now.
It was like 5 years ago, right? I mean, it was like.
That does.
The weeks are melting through. I remember saying at the sort of the outset of that, or not the outset, but at the end of February and in early March, that it was feeling like a little bit of a slow-moving avalanche. And it was like every day there was a new email to send out to the crew and to clients and to the public in general. And it was really instrumental to be in a communication with A-1, Chuckanut, Small Business Development Council. There was a number of other people on this email we had going. It was really helpful. Foundation Restoration was in there.
Yeah.
But it was a process of lots of discovery at first, lots of research and discovery, which felt like a big load on top of already a big load of project work. And I would say, but I never really felt like we were on the edge, on the precipice. The resources that were available through PPP and People's Bank, and it felt like in general there was a pretty good response society-wide to the whole situation.
Yeah, I'll add to that too and say I was appreciative of having multiple owners at that.
Yeah, for sure.
To 4 other people, and all these ideas off each other. And some people are better at other aspects of the company than I am. Dave's good with finances. I'm okay with finances. But you know, I was doing the HR side of things, and I was really focusing on our employees and how to make sure that they were supported and they had the resources that they needed. And so it was really helpful to have, to feel like we had this team that all of our brains were focused on this one goal, which was making sure that we were staying sustainable and treating our employees right. So.
Yeah, Maggie, what about you?
Well, really similar things happened with us. We reached out to Small Business Administration. We talked to these guys and figured out our path. One thing that, two things actually come to mind besides panic. You would kind of have that like bit of panic at the beginning of this, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? How are we going to take care of our team? That was the first thing. And then we had a waiting list of clients. And so we reached out to them and said, okay, we're going to get a grip on this and we'll keep you informed. And we continued to do that. But a couple of things that happened in the beginning is we were increasing our ownership 4 people to 7 people. So we had 3 people coming right on board at that time. They were like giving, they were doing all the stuff to become owners. And we're like, okay, are you sure you want to be an owner with us? Because I love it. This seems like the worst it could possibly get. And I said, yeah, we're still in. And so we went forward with 7 people instead of 4 through this. And then the other thing that our company does that for the longest time, I'm like, oh, here's this part in the financial meeting that I always wonder why he does this. So we have a financial advisor. And when we study our numbers a lot. And our financial advisor always does a projection. He goes, okay, if everything stopped, you would be able to keep your business open for X amount of months. And he always tells us how many months. And I'm like, okay, well, that's good to know. It's not like we're all going to stop working. This is an interesting little piece of information. And I would think that every time in every financial meeting for the last few years. And then finally he presented that and it's like, that's really good to know.
Yeah.
So, when we have to shut the doors.
Yeah.
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 Communication was key though, I would say, with everybody. That was the big thing, is just to stay in there and keep abreast of what's happening, keep communicating with how do we solve this? How do we solve it?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, well, there's kind of, I don't know if it's a dichotomy, but there was kind of a group of people that were just glued to the news and glued to, in my opinion, fear mongering. And I'm not saying it's not a problem. I'm just saying there was people that were so caught up in what could happen and what is happening that they didn't do that. And those people were more caught on the edge, especially as business owners, if they were caught up in that world. And it sounds like, from what I'm hearing from you all as a collective, you said, all right, well, how long can we stay in business if we don't do anything, if we can't do anything, right? And then you said, yeah, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? Okay, what's next? What's the next step? And you just kept asking questions. And that's the resilience and the adaptability and resourcefulness that is the difference between a business that's not surviving, but still thriving, or coming out with a new kind of growth to their company, or new inward focused growth, whatever it may be. Tell me a little bit more about, how do you prepare? Like, I know that Maggie, you were talking a little bit about having that financial advisor constantly reminding you of how long you can stay in business if you stop working. What are some ways that you all have created this foundation so that in the event that this happens, maybe it's a mindset thing, maybe it's financially, maybe it's deep rooting in your community, how have you all weatherproofed your mindset or your business to kind of handle it, like Jenny, like you were talking about, where you say, well, what should I be doing? Who should I be talking to? What are you guys doing? Like, it's like that initial response is not like, what am I going to do with my life now? It's like what's next? What are we going to do next? Tell me more about that mindset shift for you, or preparing your mindset for that.
Well, I would say we have so many folks in our business at Chuckanut Builders are engaged in a lot of outdoor recreation, and we enjoy adventure sports. And so I'd say that we just live a life in a way that risk management is what we do, as in our business, in our personal lives. And when you have that mindset of risk management, it's just part of your life, that going into panic mode is never an option in our lives. It's just that never makes sense, then that never gets you anywhere. So I think that we've always operated in that way of well, how do you mitigate risks, and what's the next best step? And so I think just entering it with that mindset has really helped us. just like be smart, make smart business decisions. So it's like, you're just really like weighing the risks as you go along, and just like the good with the bad. And so, I think also that we have, Kendall, one of our employees, is just like, she's like an amazing like financial wizard in my mind. And she did a lot of projections early on, and just thinking about like expenses and future expenses and what we need to do, and like how to leverage like, you know, the assets that we currently had. And so just like looking at that immediately, and identifying like the most important kind of, I don't know, assets that we had and what we could do with them and how we could leverage them. I think that that was really important. And again, like the communication part was just key, and like speaking to people's fears and their concerns, and like doing it with empathy. I think that all of those were just tools that like, and those are, you know, like communication is like something that's such a big part of what we do as builders. We're always communicating with clients and the public, of like and subcontractors a lot. Like, so none of this was like out of our wheelhouse. It was kind of just like using all of these skills that we have in the business and just leveraging them in a slightly different way, because they're just like, they're tools that we've always had. You just had to use them in a slightly different way.
Yeah. And you all have talked about having a team or having business partners, and Jenny, I think you alluded to, we couldn't do this without our carpenters, without our project managers. Like, and I can definitely attest to that. Tell me more about like, and maybe with the lens of trying to do this all on your own. Like if you were trying to do this all on your own right now, how important is having good people and having the leverage in your business to be able to focus on like, you know, like, you know, Dave and Jeff, like you were talking about, like, you know, you both have skill sets. One's good at HR or that side of the other one's the financial guy, or one person is the forward facing, you know, PR person. One person doesn't want to talk to people. They just want to, you know, manage the systems. How important is that right now?
I can help add to what Judy said in that respect, where it was like with the risk management aspect of us being builders and also being interested in the lifestyle that's been Whatcom outdoors. I found like us as owners, like quickly evaluating like, okay, so what do we have control over? Like right now, what do we have control over, and what do we not have control over? What we don't have control over, let's forget about it. And then what do we have control over? And then who's best at these different aspects? And let's split up the to-do list, and let's start, you know, plugging away. And so immediately I was diving into all the different options that our employees had. And I had Dave Gann, who's another owner, they were both diving into a lot of the financial aspects. And so we just immediately started, you know, splitting up and keeping our heads down. And then of course, talking to each other in the industry. I mean, the email chain, it was really neat to watch all of us kind of slowly, cohesively come up with individual plans, but that it was like working for all of us, you know, and we were like, we're making it happen, and that was good to feel. I also want to recognize that, like in this situation, I was really feeling thankful too. I also like, and I was feeling privileged, you know. I think like in COVID is affecting people of color disproportionately. It's affecting, you know, different communities disproportionately, and so I was recognizing in the midst of all this that, wow, I really have a lot of resources, and also like questioning like, why do I have all these resources, and what is the position that is, you know, why do I find myself in this position?
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to be introspective and always take a step back and look at our own life and really pick it to pieces a little bit and say, why is it this way? Why do I get to experience it this way? So it's amazing that you did that in that moment, because granted, there's so much chaos going on. You already have the operations of your business, and you're trying to operate a business, which is already difficult, right? It already has its challenges. And then on top of that, you're navigating something else. And so that's, yeah, wow. That's amazing. So Maggie, what about you? Talk about mindset a little bit in your team. And
yeah, that's it. Perfect. That's where I was going to go. And I think the reason that I'm in this podcast is because we're still in business, because we're surviving this situation. And I think the reason that we are is that we have a culture in the company that's really healthy. And it's that we trust each other. Like we kind of love each other, but I mean, if you want to put it in more business terms, we really trust each other. And we're accountable to each other. We're not afraid to call each other out. And so that builds a trust and a respect for each other, so that when we got into this situation, we didn't like scatter. We were already together. We already had this really strong culture between us. And so we were able to all like put our heads down together and figure this out together. And we didn't have any divisiveness going on in the decision making. It was very, it was really, really peaceful in that sense, that we were all kind of heading in the same direction mindset wise. We really, the first thing that came to mind is we got to take care of everybody in our company. We have to figure out how to do that. That was the first thing that hit us, is like, we're going to do whatever it takes. And then I would just say that, it really came down to good communication between everybody, and trusting each other is important.
And it's hard to do that sometimes when times get tough. It shows the true solidity of that bond, right? When things get really tough, it's easy to be trustworthy when things are good, right? And it always comes down to how things shake out when they're not. So forward facing, what message would you all like to give people that are watching the show, your employees or business partners, members of your community? What sort of message would you like to pass along to people? There's been many messages, but what's kind of one final message that you would like to pass along? Jenny, if you want to start.
What is our message? I think that's a really great question. I think especially given the current political situation and kind of the events in the world, and that there's so much. And I think that like Chuckanut Builders, we're going to continue to do our best to operate the way that we have, and we're going to increase, we're going to keep learning, and we're going to keep trying to get better and engage in the community, and keep caring for folks that I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of stumbling on this question. I feel like I've been so focused right now on managing the immediate, like what's happening today. And I haven't been as maybe forward thinking as I could be, because there's been a lot to think about. So I would say, yeah, moving forward, I think we're gonna just try to keep learning and increase our understanding of some of the equity pieces as we can, and we're going to try to do better as a business and as individuals around that. I think that in our community, that's definitely something that that hasn't been talked about in a way that it clearly should have been. And it's something that now that it's come to light, for us, again, individually and as a business, that we're committed to doing better. And we're not exactly sure what that's going to look like immediately, because there's so many questions, and there's then there's so many pieces that play into it. And so we're hoping to draw on the community to answer some of those questions, and a lot of introspection. And I'd say more in a nuts and bolts sense, that we're really excited to continue working in the community with folks. I know people have been at home a lot, and they're noticing all of the parts of their homes that they don't love. And we're really excited to be working with folks on their projects, remodeling their houses and making them work better, because it seems like for a while we're going to be spending a lot more times at home, and we're excited to work with folks through that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
For the gents that are lying on the floor here, what about you guys? A message that you'd like to pass along to your tribe, your community, your
Yeah, well, I would say that as a company and as individuals, we'll continue to focus on our values and continue to have open conversation with each other about our values, and try to use that to drive what we do and where the decisions we make and how we interact in the world, projects we take, and the interactions we have, the quality of the interactions we have. And I guess I would encourage all your viewers and people who interact with us in the future to do the same and ask the same of us, and that we can together push each other to be better.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jeff, any words on that to add on?
No, I think I like how you just stated that. I think that was speaking to a lot of the conversations we've had recently as a definitely we're finding ourselves focusing on community, not only the community within our company and we really do feel like a family, but then also making sure that we're supporting our community in the ways that it needs to be supported, not only with building, but with economic equity, with housing needs, in all the different ways that we find ourselves in this position of privilege and leadership, and making sure that we're self-aware enough to ask the right questions and help in the ways that we can.
Awesome. Yeah. Maggie, what about you?
Well, I can pick right up on that, Jeff, because last night the board met so that we could all discuss how we feel about current events and how our company can play a role in that. The board unanimously came to the conclusion that we have to act. So Sean and I are going to chair a committee, and we're going to figure out, like, with the profits that we hope to make, where do we want to put those? We've generally put a lot of it into things like Habitat and for Humanity and things like that, but we feel like there's a bigger need, and it directly relates to Black Lives Matter, and we're addressing that. We don't know exactly how that's going to go, and we want to do a short-term and a long-term plan about how that works, and it will probably lead to, in Whatcom County, the percentage of African Americans is a pretty small percentage of the population, but we have other communities in Whatcom County that are marginalized, and we can focus on that too. But for right now, right in this moment, we are all unanimously standing with Black Lives Matter. We have not formulated a public way to say that other than this right now.
There you go.
But we're gonna find another way to say that, and then we're gonna figure out how we can actually help change things.
Yeah.
That's our social aspect. We're becoming in the future, we're going to be way more socially justice minded, whereas in the past it's been a little bit more environmental. We just want to add to the environmental. We're going to add social justice to that.
Yeah, it's amazing because we all have these megaphones with people follow what you guys do and what, like, the craftsmanship we are as people, the outdoor side of it. There's so many people that follow what you all are doing and watching. And so I think that, Maggie, you hit that right on the head. It's so important for us to use that. We have this, we're in business, a business needs to make money, but you can use that with the intention of creating positive ripples, especially like Jeff was talking about, being in a position of privilege to help, to be support, to ask people what they need. And I absolutely couldn't agree with you more on that. And so to wrap it all, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that for a fact, you all are some of the finest builders in Whatcom County and Washington State. And I know there's probably a lineup, especially right now, of people that want to build homes. But if somebody would want to contact you, I've spoken with a few people at each of your different companies, and the education thing was amazing. Education component was so amazing, where like you just said, like having somebody hands-on, whether they're an owner or a job site manager or whatever it may be, to spend the time educating on what you need to do to actually build a house. Because it's not just like, oh yeah, let's just get some framing, some foundation, maybe a little bit of dirt work, slap it together, see what happens. That's how you build a tree house, but not a house like we all built. So for people to get in contact with you, I know that you're all on Instagram and Facebook. So for Chuckanut Builders, at Chuckanut Builders on Instagram and Facebook, you can find them there. And then the website is just chuckanutbuilders.com.
Yeah, chuckanutbuilders.com. There's a lot of educational pieces on our website, but if you want to reach out, we have a contact us form. and folks can just reach out there. And like if they have questions, we have a lot of educational pieces we're happy to share with folks, even if they end up not working with us.
Awesome. Awesome. And then for Bellingham Bay Builders, at Bellingham Bay Builders on Instagram. So go follow, like, do all the stuff, share, poke buttons, but go follow their work. BellinghamBayBuilders.com. You can find them online as well. And again, just reach out if you have questions about, you want to build a house, you have questions about a remodel, efficiency of space. You know, these people love what they do. And so this is something, a really good opportunity to do that. And then also A1, you guys are on Instagram and Facebook. And then is it just A1Builders.com?
It's A1Builders.ws. Right now we're rebranding, so we'll have a new, yeah.
Are you guys changing your name, Maggie?
Yeah, we're going to change to A1 Design Build.
Oh, cool.
So
Yeah.
all of the information on how to
I'm outing us, right? And
yeah. Yeah. So for anybody that's watching or will watch, everything as to how to get in touch with all of these people will be on the comments and all of the description for this live stream on YouTube. We will be on YouTube, so you can find them on this episode on YouTube as well. So if you'd like to see more episodes like this with awesome people like this that are Bellingham-rooted folks, community-driven folks that are doing some awesome work, you can find us there as well. Thank you all to you all, our guests here, for joining us today and taking the time on this classic Northwest rainy day to join us, whether you're sitting upright or lying down on the floor. You know?
Happy January.
Yeah.
January.
January.
Awesome.
Well, thanks, Leo, for the invite.